The Brewhouse was created to capture and share with you the long history of the Genesee Brewery. But the brewery itself isn't half as interesting as the beer and the people who make it. Visit GeneseeBrewhouse.com. Hello, everyone, and welcome into the Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brewhouse. I'm Bill Pucko. Thanks for joining us. We're pleased to be joined by Carl Falk. Welcome back. Second time around for us here.
Glad to be here.
Co-hosting Mike Catalana.
Yep.
Pat Duffy. Wearing the flag.
Well, yeah, in honor of Memorial Day, the Red Wings patriotic jerseys, and I have no idea whose jersey this is. Number 23 was probably a middle relief pitcher from like 6 years ago.
Oh, wait a minute. And all joking aside, I don't think I've ever heard you say you wore a jersey that you didn't know who it was.
I bought this after a couple of drinks at Frontier Field, and I bought it because it fit me.
We are trying to figure it out. We've got it signed.
Actually
AR-23, about
so
5
it fits
years
you,
old.
Bartolo clone?
Words hurt, Mike. On Memorial Day
It's
weekend.
your jersey.
Yes,
You bought
yeah,
it,
it's mine.
so
That's
it's
right.
yours.
Yeah.
A good place to start. Hey, let's talk Yankees, one of my favorite subjects.
You love this subject.
Listen, what are they, 22-5 of their last 27? Is this sustainable?
No. Nobody's going to win that many games in a short period of time. However, with that offense, with the bullpen that they've assembled, the depth of that bullpen, they're going to be there at the end. They're going to be a 600 baseball team. There's so many guys that a guy like Clint Frazier that other teams would kill for is likely to be sent down because he's got nowhere to play. They've got to make a move for another starting pitcher. They may have seen that guy this week with Cole Hamels in Texas, maybe the answer, but nobody's going to win 22-27 over a period of time.
You know, as good as they've been, Mike, they're not clearly the best team in the American League. You got Houston and Boston to consider.
Houston is probably a better all-around team. I think most people have felt that way. Boston can play. They aren't as explosive as the Yankees are, certainly with the lineup, but they win, and Betts has been phenomenal. So all that goes into play. But the Yankees have flaws. Carl mentioned some starting pitching. I don't think they should be allowed to call Gary Sanchez a catcher. I think that's just a suggestion. Yeah, well, that's good. It's like watching James Harden try to play defense. There's a certain level of effort, but not really. You know, he just sort of goes after the ball. He has no sense of catching the baseball, and I do think that impacts them a lot. Now, maybe not in a 162-game season. They'll outscore teams a lot. But you get into bigger games and bigger moments, and I think that can be a problem for them.
Well, I do find it very funny that the Yankees have somehow managed to involuntarily devalue the manager position again. Because how about Aaron Boone to the dugout? Well, guys, look at what's going on here.
Oh, wait a minute.
This
Hold
is pretty
on.
amazing.
Hold on. We had this conversation at the beginning of the year, and the reason I said Boone would do well is because Boone's job is to be an American League manager, which is get your personalities together. He's not making a lot of decisions.
He's not making any
decisions.
decisions. You just sending him out there, go do a bunch of stuff, right? NL bias is what this is, right? There are AL managers who make decisions to win ball games. Aaron Boone is not one of them. He's got guys next to him. Hey, did you guys see what happened? Did you guys say that? Did you call that? Because I had no idea what the heck's going on.
I don't disagree with you. His main job is to keep the clubhouse right, make sure guys get rest when they need it.
Okay.
Deal with the pitchers.
It's got to be Joe Torre. Manage the personalities.
Hey, is it good for baseball, the American League in particular, that it's so top-heavy? We talk about these three clubs. There's not another team out there that compete with them.
There is one. They're off to a terrible start. The Indians. The Indians could come back and make it interesting. But you're right. That's what baseball's become. Baseball's become the haves and the tankers. You look at Kansas City a couple of years ago, they win the World Series. They are literally a tanking team that's going to become a one-stop shopping for teams that are going to try and make a run. The American League's very good at the top, very bad at the bottom.
And that's a bad thing.
It's a bad thing if there's a team at the top, and like the way people thought of Golden State at the beginning of the basketball season. But there are. I mean, come on, Yankees, Red Sox would be a great series. Red Sox,
the best
Houston,
team in the American
right?
League.
So you have teams that can win, and there'll still be a fight for a playoff spot. So there'll still be teams that are in that position to try to still make it into the postseason, which will keep people interested in August. But I don't think there's anything wrong with having three excellent to great teams in the American League.
We heard what Aaron Boone had to say about it. Bro, this is great, guy. Look at this.
He's got a good seat for the game.
This is great.
We just wanted to hear that one more time. This is the Rochester Press Box. We are presented by the Genesee Brew House, and we'll talk Buffalo Bills next. The Press Box, brought to you in part by Connors and Ferris, your workers' comp attorneys. Call 262-COMP, C-O-M-P, today. Welcome back. This is the Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brew House. This portion, our Buffalo Bills portion, brought to you by Connors and Ferris. Mike, it was a small item, but Richie Incognito was granted his release, which I think says a couple of things about where the Bills are right now.
I think Richie would have helped the team this year because we don't know what their offensive line is going to be like. You do get the feeling they were thinking he was not going to be here long term. He's 34 years old. And Richie, let's be honest, the way it ended with the Bills was a bit bizarre with the tweets and everything else. I think they got together and said, we're revamping this team, because they still are revamping a lot of the team. And they're just saying, okay, time to move on. Some people say, well, could they have held on and gotten a draft pick or done whatever, if you hold him from being released and keep him on that list? I think they just wanted to part ways, and they'll let Richie go somewhere else.
That they didn't let themselves get petty about it. I like that.
Oh, but it doesn't make any sense to me. Okay, the pettiness, fine, but one, there is an asset possibly if somebody wants Richie to play. Two, there's a chance that he signs with the Jets or the Patriots tomorrow, which means you're seeing him twice a year. The guy was a Pro Bowler last year. He's still playing at the top. And I think the most important part of this that makes me scratch my head is the leverage you now have negotiating with the players moving down the line. Because Richie Incognito got weird and embarrassed you as a franchise in front of everybody on his own terms on Twitter, and you gave him exactly what he wanted.
Yeah, but I don't have as big a problem with it because of the position the team is in right now. Look, we can pretend that they're better than they are. They are still rebuilding. They made the playoffs with smoke and mirrors last year. They know they're rebuilding. If they were closer, if they were better, I think maybe they would have approached it a little differently and maybe tried to buy that one more year of Richie. I think they're trying to get the locker room the way they want the locker room, and I think it ended up being, I don't think they would have pushed him out, but once he took that step, they were like, let's move on to somebody else.
To say they were done with him is wrong. They re-signed him.
Right.
They gave him an extension in March. That precipitated this whole thing. He was unhappy he took a pay cut, which showed their real interest in him. They wanted to give him a pay cut. But for them to move on from him, to me, is ludicrous because of what you said. They get nothing for him. They get no salary relief. They have no benefit from him being released. If they kept him retired, similar to what they did with Anquan Bolden last year,
you don't want that.
You
look,
don't
though.
let him. Why?
You don't want
How
that
does
look
that
around
hurt?
the league. I'm telling you, around the league, that would hurt them more than it would help them. You talk about the pettiness. In this case, if they really wanted to keep him, I think they would have tried to work something out. I think they got to the point where they were saying, just let him walk.
What is the money thing?
There is no benefit for them. They get no relief.
He returned his signing bonus.
Which he would have anyway.
Yeah.
Which he would have anyway because he was retired. But around the league, let's be honest, Buffalo's never going to be that place for free agents to go. They're never going to be.
Well, isn't it funny? Richie felt a lot differently 3.5 years ago.
Well, they were the only ones that would take him 3.5 years ago.
And he did
He rebuilt
rehabilitate
his image,
career. There's no doubt that he was able to do that.
now he leaves a big void on that offensive line, which obviously was going to be there anyway when he retired.
Yeah.
I just don't understand this move because I think there's zero benefit for them. And to what Duffy said, I think there's a big potential for him to come back and bite him.
There's only one theory that I can come up with why it went as smoothly as it did with the Bills cutting him loose. And I mean, this is just me talking, speculating. I don't know anything. I feel like the Bills know that there is something that's going to come out about Richie Incognito within the next couple of months, and they want no part of it. That would be the only thing that makes sense, is they do not want to get wrapped up in some scandal. You've seen that maybe his mind isn't where we all thought his mind was.
Yeah. To Pat's point, if there is anything else out there, move on.
And 5 months from now, this really won't make a difference.
And
to
it will
Unless
be interesting. Yeah,
but unless he's the pulling guard on a winning touchdown against the Jets that cost us a playoff spot. Whew, that was a close one.
This is the Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brew House. This portion brought to you by Connors and Ferris. Like it or not is next. Here's the Press Box Trivia question, brought to you by Market View Liquor, where exceptional customer service meets an extensive selection. Jefferson Road at 390. Here's the Press Box Trivia answer, brought to you by Market View Liquor, where exceptional customer service meets an extensive selection. Jefferson Road at 390. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us. This is the Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brewhouse. Like it or not, how many times have we done this? The Vegas Golden Knights, the Stanley Cup Finals.
I love it right now. I mean, I don't want them to win because of all the heartbreak of my Sabres, but it is really interesting that all of the general managers and head coaches in the NHL are getting served a piece of humble pie, and now they're trying to turn around and be like, oh, well, we got... Rob, go look back at all of these stars, and I say stars in quotation marks because nobody knew who these Vegas players were before this season. Look at their numbers from the last 2 or 3 seasons. You're seeing jumps in 20, 30 points, double-digit goal jumps going from places like Columbus and Florida out to Vegas. And it's because the system works. They knew what they wanted. They had their guys that they targeted that were going to fit into the boxes to make this team run, and it's working. It doesn't hurt that Pittsburgh gave up too early on a goalie like Fleury, but I mean, he's your backstop. He's playing fantastic. They have their system. And by the way, man, what do they have? 6 draft picks in the first 3 rounds over the next 2 years?
Well, and the other part about it is because it's not just like get rid of all the players we don't want. There's salary issues. They took on some bigger salaries. And I think because they're in Las Vegas and it's the first pro team there, I think while they say they didn't think, no one thought they would advance this quickly, but they knew they had to try to put at least a decent product on the ice to get the attention of the fans, and they got even more than that. So it worked in both ways. They were able to take on a little bit of salary. You're right about Fleury, because if they don't have Fleury and they have average goaltending, they're not in the finals.
But the best part is any other NHL GM could have flipped a 1 for Fleury, and they would have got him instead of Vegas, but nobody else wanted him. They thought he was cooked, even though he might be the reason why Pittsburgh made it to the Stanley Cup Finals last season.
And that could have happened if they picked up Fleury and then seeing how things are going and then make a deal at a certain point, but they didn't need to. I think it's great. I mean, look, Winnipeg would have been a nice story. They're the Buffalo of Canada.
I hate Winnipeg.
No, they're actually good. You know, you look at what Vegas did, you pointed it out, they took on salary. Buffalo's signing guys like Matt Molson, who just sold a $1.1 million house. How does Matt Molson have a $1.1 million house?
Well, because the Sabres gave him $10 million.
Exactly right. And that's the point. All these bad GMs who have signed all these bad contracts, Vegas looked, I'll take him and his money because he's worth it when I don't have bad contracts to start from. That was their big advantage.
And the clean slate part, actually, I'm sure a lot of general managers would like to sit there. Look, you're building from the beginning. Clean slate, we don't have salary, we don't have players. Because what happens, even Jason Botterill coming into Buffalo, they're still paying for sins of the last 2 general managers and trying to manipulate that. Now, you also have talent. You have Jack Eichel on the team. You have things like that. But blank slate with Vegas, again, no one, not even a single person in that building, probably thought they'd be a playoff team, let alone a Stanley Cup final team.
I think they stick it to Seattle or whoever gets the next expansion team. They're going to make sure this doesn't happen again.
Yeah, I don't know, because they're going to be paying the money.
There's not much you could do differently, really.
They like it or not, the new targeting rule by the NFL proposed.
This bothers me because now it's going to pertain to inline play. So the 3-point stance very well may go away because the old days of getting low and blocking, you may not see that anymore. The good news is last year, apparently going through all the film, there would have been 3 ejections based on the targeting rule that weren't obvious, I should say. 3 additional plays that would have resulted in ejections. So I don't think it's going to be as bad as we think, but I do think it's going to change the way football is played.
This is the Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brewhouse. Unfinished Business is next.
Here is the MVP Experience Stat of the Week, brought to you by Sport Clips, where it's good to be a guy. No appointment ever needed.
Dunkin's new Cosmic Culotta. Far out flavors that are out of this world. And now, any small culotta is $2. The universe runs on Dunkin'.
Welcome back to the Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brewhouse. This portion, Unfinished Business, brought to you by Dunkin' Donuts. America runs on Dunkin'. Pat.
It's Josh Allen time in Western New York. The Buffalo Bills are at minicamp. They're out there in their helmets and shorts, and all of your stars, you're seeing them. And everyone seems, in that franchise, in around Western New York, to have bought into the first-round rookie quarterback. I want you to remember this before you get too excited about that issue, right? Richie Incognito, no longer a Buffalo Bill, went from arguably the most popular player in a blue-collar area to the most hated. You believe that he was loyal and hardworking and blue-collar and wanted to be a part of this community, and like that, he didn't want to anymore. And now you don't like him because you bought into what he was, and he's out. Just because LaShawn McCoy is tweeting that Josh Allen is the future of this team doesn't mean that he's the future of this team, because he said the same thing about Tyrod, and he said the same thing about Nate Peterman after those couple horrible games. Listen, don't buy into the machine. I'm not saying that Josh Allen is going to be great. I hope Josh Allen's going to be great. He's awesome. We need him to be. I can't go through that again. But don't base the success of a future quarterback on his teammates looking at him in tiny little shorts and saying he could throw the ball really far. Because I'll be honest with you, all of you guys, maybe with the exception of you in tiny little shorts, can throw that ball very far. Pump the brakes a little bit.
I had my day. You know, it's like, and Mike would say, it's like everyone's great until he isn't.
Yeah.
Well, and there's a difference, though, between fans buying in and teammates, because the teammates need, at times, to buy into what's going on the field. Fans don't really have an impact on that.
Okay, but like using the argument that Shady loves him, Shady is the most company man you will ever meet on the planet. If somebody goes and says, tweet this about this guy, he's going to do it. You know him, man.
Think Philadelphia would ever call Shady a company man?
There was a time that maybe he
He kissed the eagle! I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Carl.
In March, St. Bonaventure won a basketball game in the NCAA tournament for the first time in 40 years. They beat UCLA. That was a big moment for St. Bonaventure. But Monday night, they signed a guy, Osun Osunniyi, that might have been a bigger moment. 6'10 kid from New Jersey. They beat Syracuse and Georgetown for this kid. He would have been a spare part at Syracuse. Not a big loss for Syracuse. But the fact that Mark Schmidt beats Syracuse for a kid they wanted, beats Georgetown and Patrick Ewing for a big man they could have developed, shows that St. Bonaventure is reloading. They've lost seniors. They're going to be competitive again very soon. It shows how far this little program has come.
You know, they're in a great conference, too, so, I mean, they automatically have that going for them, too. It'd be a great thing to see if this was perpetuated
Absolutely.
itself.
It's starting to get that way.
Nice.
Coming up on June the 5th, the Philadelphia Eagles, my team that won the Super Bowl, get a visit to the White House. Now, here's what I have to tell you about this. I hate it. Not about the Eagles specifically. I hate the White House visits. I know it's got a lot of attention now because of Donald Trump, and we know there are people certainly on both sides on Donald Trump. I'm just tired of the whole thing. I know it started back, you can even go trace it back into the 1800s where teams visited the White House, and then there are teams certainly in the 1920s and 30s, but it really started in the 80s. And that's when it was the Pittsburgh Steelers who came to the White House with Jimmy Carter, and he waved the terrible towel, and then it became the thing. The problem with it is so divisive now, I think it's lost what it was supposed to be. Not only is it politically divisive, I don't see any way that's ever going to turn around, because you name me the person who someday is going to occupy the White House that it's not going to be divisive. Someone now is going to have an opinion. Someone now is going to say there's a reason I'm going, there's a reason I'm not going, and it causes internal strife. And then add into the fact it used to be just a few teams going, and now it's everybody and their brother. The West Virginia National Championship rifle team visited the White House. I'm not kidding. Look, I'll make a quick analogy. Years ago, my family, 2 other families used to go on a vacation. It was fun. It worked with a few different families. It was great. And then another family, and then another family. They wanted to join. They wanted to come in. Guess what it did? It blew up the whole thing. Not a bad idea to begin, but when it got too big, too spread out, too many opinions, it all blew up. I'm tired of it. Stay out of the White House. The president should have more important things to do than to stand up, hold up a jersey with a number 1 and his name on the back. White House visit should end.
He's got his golf game to work on after
That's
all.
true.
There's no time for that.
That 1800s trip.
Yeah, I was there.
Back, and I was, damn, why you got to take my punchline, Mike?
Because
you
you're
knew where I was
so
going.
slow,
Why you got to be
slow
that
delivery.
guy? Why you got to be that guy?
This is the Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brewhouse Unfinished Business, brought to you by Dunkin' Donuts. America runs on Dunkin'. Carl, thanks a lot.
My pleasure.
Let's
Thanks
do
for
it
having
again.
me. Absolutely.
Guys,
Mike's the worst.
Antoine Richardson, we got to confirm.
Yes, yeah, thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
On the
Man, he takes your name and I take your punchlines. Rough week
Thank you for
Good
watching.
show.
See you next week for the Rochester Press Box.